The old house loomed at the end of the street, dark and silent, windows like empty eyes. "I dare you," Ryan smirked. "Go touch the front door." 12-year-old Josh felt a shiver crawl up his spine. He wasn't scared, not really, just uneasy. Willow Creek house, nobody dared go near it. Stories whispered of strange noises, flickering lights, and things that went bump in the night. Josh took a hesitant step toward the house. His heart thumped in his chest. The shadows from the trees seemed to reach out, long, grasping fingers. He glanced back at Ryan, who was watching with a mixture of amusement and fear. Josh couldn't back down now. With each step closer, the house seemed to grow larger, more menacing. The air grew cold, sending a fresh wave of goosebumps erupting on his arms. The porch creaked ominously under his weight. The front door loomed before him, dark and weathered. He slowly reached out his hand. The metal doorknob felt ice-cold beneath his touch. He could hear the blood pounding in his ears. Suddenly, a whisper, soft and chilling, coming from inside the house. "Get out! Get out!" Josh jumped back, his heart racing. He spun around to see if Ryan had heard it too, but Ryan was gone, vanished. The whisper came again, closer this time, more insistent, more menacing. "Get out before it's too late!" Josh's breath caught in his throat. He wanted to run, but his legs felt like lead. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing in his ears like a drum. He could feel the cold sweat trickling down his back, making his shirt cling to his skin. He couldn't move. He was frozen in place, paralyzed by the sheer terror that gripped him. His mind screamed at him to flee, but his body refused to obey. Then he saw it, a face, pressed against the dusty window in the attic. It was barely visible through the grime, but its presence was unmistakable. White and gaunt, with eyes that burned like hot coals. The intensity of its gaze seemed to pierce through him, freezing his blood. The face opened its mouth in a silent scream, and Josh felt a surge of terror like he had never known. It was as if the very essence of fear had taken form and was staring directly at him. He had to get out of there. He turned and ran, stumbling down the porch steps and back towards the street. His legs felt weak, but adrenaline pushed him forward. The whispers followed him, growing fainter as he ran. They seemed to echo in his mind, a haunting reminder of the face he had seen. He didn't dare look back, fearing what might be behind him. He didn't stop running until he reached the safety of his own house. His heart pounded in his chest, and his legs felt like they were on fire, but he couldn't afford to slow down. The darkness seemed to chase him, urging him to move faster. He slammed the door shut and leaned against it, gasping for breath. The silence inside was almost deafening compared to the chaos outside. He could feel his pulse in his ears, a constant reminder of the fear that had driven him here. He could still hear the whispers in his mind. They were faint but persistent, like echoes from another world. Each whisper seemed to carry a warning, a plea for help or a threat. See the ghostly face at the window. It was a fleeting glimpse, but enough to send chills down his spine. The face was pale, almost translucent, with eyes that seemed to bore into his soul. He knew then that Willow Creek House held dark secrets. Secrets that were buried deep within its walls, waiting to be uncovered. The house seemed to breathe, its very presence a testament to the horrors it concealed. Later that night, as he lay in bed, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The room felt colder, and shadows seemed to move on their own. Every creak and groan of the house made his heart race. He thought about Ryan, and a knot of worry twisted in his stomach. Ryan had been acting strange lately, and now he was missing. The thought of his friend in danger made his resolve stronger. He had to go back. There was no other choice. He couldn't leave Ryan to face whatever was lurking in Willow Creek House alone. He had to make sure Ryan was okay. With a deep breath, he steeled himself for what lay ahead. The journey back to the house was filled with dread, but he knew he had to confront the darkness to save his friend. He crept out of his house and back to Willow Creek House. The night was eerily quiet, the only sound being the rustling of leaves in the cold wind. His breath formed small clouds in the chilly air as he approached the haunted house. He took a deep breath and stepped inside. The house was silent, almost as if it were holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The air inside was thick with the scent of old wood and dust. He tiptoed through the dark rooms, his heart pounding louder with each step. Shadows danced on the walls and every creak of the floorboards made him jump. He felt as if unseen eyes were watching his every move. He found Ryan in the attic sitting on the floor. He was laughing, a sound that seemed out of place in the eerie silence of the house. The dim light cast long shadows, making the scene even more surreal. "Scared you, didn't I?" Ryan said, holding up a small tape recorder. His laughter echoed in the confined space, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. Josh stared at him in disbelief, his mind racing to make sense of what was happening. He had been so sure that the whispers were real. "You were the one whispering?" Josh asked, his voice trembling. Ryan grinned mischievously, clearly enjoying the moment. "It was just a prank, Josh. Relax," Ryan said, trying to reassure his friend. But the tension in the room was palpable, and Josh couldn't shake the feeling of unease. But as Ryan spoke, a cold wind swept through the attic, and the tape recorder clattered to the floor. The whispering began again, this time louder and more insistent. This time it was real. The whispers seemed to come from all around them, filling the room with an otherworldly presence. Josh and Ryan exchanged terrified glances, realizing that they were not alone.